In the last movie, we were able to export out the social icons, and we saved them to a file called ico.png. And again, that has significance because if we come back to our HTML editors, in my case, it's Dreamweaver, we can take a look at the code added by the F2FW framework, and we know that a.ico has a background property that makes reference to ico.png. Now, what's nice about this, if we come back to our HTML document, is we're calling that class twice, but we're not making two requests to the server for that image because the class will call it that one time. So it's making a more efficient, faster web page. So what we need to do now is we need to make sure that the width and the height is defined properly for these icons and also that they're positioned properly. And we can do that inside of our style sheet file. So let's come over to style.css, and what I'd like you to do is scroll down to the area where we're writing our own rules. And we need to create a rule that will set the width and the height of the Twitter and Facebook icons. Remember, we're essentially calling our own class within the index page, ICO Facebook and ICO Twitter. This will give us the ability to change the background position of each of these uniquely, ultimately revealing the Facebook icon and the Twitter icon. But the width and the height for both of those are going to be the same. So let's go ahead and create a rule that gives us the ability to set the width and the height for both of those. So I'm going to go ahead and type in a.ico-Facebook, then a.ico-Twitter. And what we want to do inside this rule is we want to set the height and the width. So I'm going to go ahead and set the height to 16 pixels. And I'm going to set the width to 16 pixels. So that looks good. I'll go ahead and add a space here. And I didn't want windows, I actually wanted width, so I'll go ahead and update that. So that looks good. We've defined the width and the height for both of those icons. But now what we need to do is we need to position them independently. So we're going to create another rule, a.ico-Facebook. And here we're going to set the background position. So go ahead and use code hinting if you have it to save a little bit of typing. You want to set the background position to 0, 0. We're obviously going to do the exact same thing for the Twitter icon. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. And then I'm going to paste it. And I'm going to set the background position to negative 16 pixels. Remember, that's going to move it over so the Twitter icon can be revealed because the entire width of the document is 32 pixels. By moving it over a negative number, especially 16 pixels, it'll bring that Twitter icon into focus. So let's go ahead and save this. After saving it, let's come back to the index.html page and take a look at it in Chrome or Safari. And you should see the icons, but they're stacked on top of one another. And this may be somewhat confusing when you first see it, but if we think about what's going on here, it makes perfect sense. Let's come back to our HTML editor. If we review the class ICO, you'll notice it has a display property set to block. So it's doing exactly what we're asking it to do. In order for us to control the position further, we need to add a float to the Facebook icon. And we also have to essentially clear the margin values that we're setting here within this rule. Fortunately, there's classes already set up within the F2FW framework that give us that ability. So let's come over to index.html. You know the float left property. We've used it in a previous movie. So for the Facebook icon, what I want you to do is add that float left property. And remember, it's just FL. But for the Twitter icon, what we need to do is essentially remove the margin values. And there happens to be a class inside the F2FW framework called NMR, which stands for no margin right. And all it's doing is kind of zeroing out those values. If you come back to the CSS file, if you want to take a look at that, I'll scroll up here towards the top. I'll use the find function and I'll type in NMR, and then I'll click find next. When it finds it, you'll notice that the margin right value is set to 0, and it has the important declaration, meaning it'll override any other value. So I'll go ahead and close this, make sure the style.css document is saved, come back to index.html and save that, Then go ahead and take a look at that inside of Chrome. And when you do, you'll notice that the Twitter icon and the Facebook icon now appear where you want them to appear. So this is looking pretty good. We're now done with the top portion of the page. What we'll do in the next chapter is we'll start to look at how we can create the header section of the page.